Hey guys, welcome to the Goodfellow Podcast. Appreciate you tuning in. If you're new to the channel, just hit like and subscribe. Got a lot of great stories here about the Mafia, about my life with the FBI, and all kinds of good stuff like that. Also, don't forget about we have a Patreon channel too, which I do some other different content on there as well. Just some casual stuff, also some documents that I wanted to show about my transcripts, documents from the FBI, stuff like that, and some fun times as well. We also got a shop, which is, the Goodfellow shirts, logos like hats, thermoses, and stuff like that. So check that out. Maybe you want to get one of those as well. And then we have another segment, Ask Joe. So you could ask me about my personal life. If I'm able to answer things, I will. Definitely ask me about my life in the Mafia and with the FBI. I'll do my best to answer what I can. And other than that, just like and subscribe. That's what we really appreciate because I got a lot of stories to bring to you, and that helps me bring more stories to you. I also want to say hello to my friend Charlie Buono, who actually has his book From Crime to Christ. I always mention it on my show. He's a very dear friend of mine. Grew up together since we're kids, his family and my family. So please look into that. If you like something, email us, call us. We have both the phone, we have the email, so we can get the book to you. Just ask for it, and I will. Also, want to give a shout out to Mafia Roundtable, my good friend, and Dominick Cicale. Him and I, we're in the life together. Very dear friend of mine. Love him. Hit and check out his podcast as well. He's got a lot of stories that actually coincide with mine because we were in the life together, and vice versa. And he's got a lot of things going on. So you're going to like his book that's coming out, The Perfect Crime Family. He's also got vodka. He's got a lot of good stuff. Cigars. He's got a lot of stuff. So tune into his channel. Like and subscribe that one as well. You'll be really pleased. So today, without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about the corruption in the BOP, which is the Bureau of Prisons. Originally, when I started this channel too, I want to talk about the corruption within the FBI, not just even the wise guy life. Since I was in both worlds, I know about it very good. But also the BOP. So I'm going to start by how they treated me. So on my first bid was a lot different. I was a lot younger, a lot healthier, whatever the case may be. But I seen how it changed even from when I was in the first time, health-wise. They locked me up into a hole. I was in population for a couple of months, and they threw me into the SHU, which is special housing unit. Special housing unit. I call it the hole, the box. There's a lot of different names people call it, but it's you're locked up for 23 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends you're locked up for 24 hours a day. Well, I don't know if you guys ever looked up anything about it. I found this out after I got my PTSD from being in the box. It's torture, just being in there alone. Okay. There's been so many studies on it, and it's cruel and inhumane punishment. Well, that's only part of it. The other part is when I was in there, so I seen a lot of things, how they grab people out of their cells, how they beat them. I seen some underhanded stuff going. Sometimes certain CEOs, they know certain people in there. They getting money from people in the street, doing quiet things on the side, helping out the inmate that's in there if they know somebody that can get to the CEO. You got to turn a blind eye to that. Now with me, I wound up getting MRSA staph infection. So that's the one that can kill you. They gave me actually 3 antibiotics at once to take just to kill it in me. And what happened was I developed masses in me, big balls of pus. So one of them, they took me out. Nunez was the guy who actually was the I forget how they call him in there. The PA was in there. So he actually is the one who cut one of all the 3 of them out of me. And there was another guy. It was a CO there. His name was Tanani. Wasn't a bad guy, but they took me into this room. The plaster was coming down the ceilings. I laid on this table. It must have been an old place where they would look at you at one time, but they never used it anymore. But they put me on this table, and the guy started cutting me open without any anesthesia. He said, it's right on top. I can get it right away. So Tanani gives me, if you ever suck one of those ice pops or, like that, you get the little stick that's after it. Well, he gave me one of those. He said, here, just bite on this. And I did.
That's all they gave you?
That's all they gave me the
Wow.
first time. Yeah, it's all they gave me the first time, and then they cut it out. It looked like a little football, and he sewed me up like that. And hey, look, I was able to take it, but I was, I was biting hard on the thing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. The guy's cut me open, and he pulled the mass out. So then I wound up getting another mass. I know it's kind of funny, but it was one was on my butt cheek, and the other one was just below my butt cheek on my thigh, a little bit behind, in the back. Well, they gave me on both times some stuff to numb it up at that time, but it wore off quick. It wasn't really that great. So let me tell you something. Cutting that out, I still got the scars to prove it, and I won't show you now only because it's on. I don't want to embarrass anything. It's certain kind of near my private parts, obviously. But this is how they treat you in the hole. Okay, and I'm going to tell you even more how I even got into the box. The FBI outed me as an informant. Now, it's the FBI's job to protect you. Well, once you're in prison and everything, they just figured, well, let's torture this guy Joe because I didn't want to work with them on my second pinch. They were no good, amateurs at best, and they informed the BOP. And this is how they do it. Like they put it in the paper that I was cooperating against my co-defendant, which I was not. So that enables the BOP to have that in the newspaper to say that my life is in danger. The FBI calls up and says, oh, this guy's life in danger. Here's the paper. And they throw me in the hole. So this is how they wanted to punish me because, listen, let's face it. You're being locked up 23 hours a day and 24 hours on Saturday and Sunday. It's punishment.
What did they let you do for the 1 hour out of the day that you were not in the shoe?
Good question. So now you have to put your hands behind your back and they handcuff you through the slot that they give you the food and everything in. Then you walk forward, they open the door, they pull you backwards, they grab you like this, they grab you by your handcuffs, they back you up, and then you go out into another yard and another pen like this. And
are you out there with other special housing inmates or?
Yes.
Okay.
But there's like these big wire. It's like you're in a dog pen actually. So you're in that. You can't really have that good communications. I mean, you can't touch them. You can't do the fingers. You put your fingers, but you're not going to be really talking to that many people if you don't know them. And then so you're out there for an hour. What they do in the wintertime or when it's raining, they ask if you want to go out early in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. So that you say yeah, because you want to get out. You want to take that 45 minutes. But if it's raining out there, they leave you out there for over an hour. If it's cold in winter out there and it's cold, they do give you a jacket. And you go out there and they leave you out there sometimes for almost 2 hours. They go against their own things because they like, oh, we'll make sure this guy doesn't go out there, and they try to get you sick. They try to get you to get a cold or something like that. They don't care. You got to remember, these people are into some degree of sadistic. Okay. They're sick. You don't have no Q-tips to clean your ears. There's only a certain amount of food that you're allowed in there. It's not like you have the commissary that you can get when you're in general population. And they torture you. You ask for something. Look, you had to beg for a roll of toilet paper. Okay, you sit on a steel to sit on the toilet. It's a steel one-piece toilet, sink, and everything like that. It's ice cold when you sit on it. Okay, now I was able to because one of the guys came in with the cell with me for a little bit, and he had this styrofoam because when he got a certain tray of food that he was getting, it came on a styrofoam. So we cut the styrofoam in half, and we used it to sit on so that we wouldn't be sitting on that cold steel thing. So this is the stuff you kind of got to do. Also, we put a string from the bed blanket that they give you, which the blanket's only this thin. Okay, and you're freezing in there, believe me. So you don't even take your clothes off at all in there until you go into the shower. And just to hang the clothes up because you got to wash your own clothes basically because they don't really wash your clothes for you either. It's just pure hell torture. You ask them for a magazine that another cell guy that wants to give you a magazine or something like that, they don't want to even pass the magazines to you. No, we're not allowed to do that, they go. Okay? I seen guys in there, how they are when they get One guy got beat up in the cell by another guy. The guy said, "Look, I don't want nobody in the cell with me." They said, "Well, you have to put him in here with you. We have no choice." As soon as the handcuffs came off the both of them, they started fighting. They were killing each other. The guys had to rush them in there and get them out. This is how bad it is. And you want to try to kill yourself in there? Unless you hang yourself somehow, some way in there, you're not going to go on a food strike. Because if you're not eating and they know you're not eating, they'll force feed you. They handcuff you. They take you downstairs. And this is what the CEO, this is what the guard, one of the COs told me. They'll force feed you. Okay, so you're not going to die in there. They don't want that on their record.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And another CO told me that he says if there's ever a war that breaks out, we're the first ones. They don't let you go. They don't take care. If the country's being invaded, they come in and they shoot you. They don't want you to join the other. They're afraid that you will join the other, invade and the other army invading, because this is how it is. I mean, let me tell you something. You have no rights whatsoever in there. You think you do? No. Everybody thinks, oh, you go to prison, you get reformed. There's no thing as being reformed. That's why a lot of people, when they go to prison, they turn to God, and and it is a good place like that for that, because you kind of really forget about the world outside, and you start reading the Bible, and you start listening to things, you start hearing other people and stuff like that.
How do you get your hands on a Bible in prison?
You could ask for it. Sometimes they can give it to you. You could have one sent in.
If you're in the shoe, are you able to get like things sent in from relatives and stuff like that?
You have to ask. Like a Bible, I think you could ask for that. If in the shoe, you're very limited. But if you're in population, it's easier. But most of the time, they will let you get a Bible in like that. Glasses, like these are prescription too. But I had my regular glasses. You're allowed to wear a wedding ring. If you're engaged or married, you're allowed to wear a ring.
That could be dangerous, I feel like.
Yeah, it can be. Listen, there's a lot of, I had two when I was married. One was a real one. I was at home, but I had one was like sterling silver, wasn't really worth that much or whatever it was, so it was no big deal. So it's funny how I proved that the FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, they can control anything. The only way I got out of the hole was all the letters that my fiance at that time wrote to the judge, because my heart was skipping beats. I actually passed out in there. First of all, I walked out of there. Right now, I'm about 220 pounds. When I walked out of there, I was 173. Okay, wow. So yeah, and even the judge noticed that I got a lot thinner. So she actually, I passed out. My heart was skipping beats, and they took me to a hospital with the marshals and stuff like that. I was there for a few days. I don't know exactly. Everything was okay. I mean, I might have been just a stress or whatever it was, and then I went back.
They didn't diagnose you with anything? You think it was just the stress?
Yeah, I think it was just a stress. I don't remember what they diagnosed me with, but I also got a letter in the mail, letter from I left it somewhere there. Somebody took it. The reason why they put me in the hole, and I had all the paperwork, but I lost it because all my stuff from the other prison I was in when I was at MDC, and I had to go to trial now at MCC. They had all my stuff, and because you can get there's different commissaries for every prison you go to. Well, in this MCC, you get the chocolate chip cookies that are chewy. The ones I got at MDC were the hard ones. One of the guys in there, this guy McCoy, he was a cool dude. He said, "Man, I haven't seen those cookies in a long time," because he's been in there. I gave him the whole packet. He was a nice guy, But anyways, I had run downstairs so I can get my commissary from my old prison, and then I left a stupid letter on the thing. I didn't even get a chance to open it, and somebody took it, and that's the way it is. You're in prison. But I wasn't thinking. My whole head. I wound up getting PTSD when I came home. I was on Klonopin, a mind drug, because he took one look at me, my psychiatrist, and knew right away something was wrong. The therapist that I still see a therapist to this day. I went through a couple of them, but they seen right away. They knew I had PTSD. I didn't realize it myself. I thought that was for soldiers or something. I didn't know what it was from, but I'm still dealing with it. I still can't. Certain things remind me. I hear keys jingling. It reminds me of in the box, and I get a panic attack immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am legitimately messed up. I thought it would go away, but from what I understand, it never goes away. I've tried to deal with it a lot better. Don't get me wrong, but I was locked when I came home after I won my trial. I was sitting like in a dark. Okay, I wouldn't go outside. It was I didn't realize how messed up I was. But this is what the Bureau of Prisons do to you. There is no all right. When you get designated, you could go to like a wood shop. You could work. You could do a few things like that. But that doesn't do anything. You're away from your family, your friends, anybody you care about, or whatever. It's just a place. I mean, don't get me wrong. You do your time. You do it. I did it too. Even on my first bit, you just do it a time. It's like you know, you you got no choice, really. I mean, but you just make the most of it. But the corruption within the Bureau of Prisons, the FBI, how they work with them. I mean, like I said, if it wasn't for the judge getting me out of there, and she says he's not going back to the box while he's going to be on trial. He needs to talk to his attorney and all of this stuff. So when they moved me from MDC, I went to MCC, which was that's a Southern District, and that's where I was with when even in the '90s when I was supposed to meet John Gotti. Look, I had Louis Kassman on here, and he talked about how they John Gotti had cancer and all of this stuff like this, and how they treated him in there. And I mean, he could tell the story better than I can because he was totally on top of all of that. But you get sick in there, you pretty much you're gonna die. Okay, it's very rare that you can get any real great help unless they move you to another place, and they still don't. It's not like when you're home, and that's wrong. I don't care who you are, what you did. And most people might say, well, you must have did something wrong. You went to prison, they arrested you. And that's people who don't really realize it. I'm going to tell you guys a story. You're not going to believe it. But like I said about people not realizing what really goes on, the corruption, because these people never did anything wrong in their life. And I understand that, and that's cool. They don't even cheat on their taxes or anything like that. They're scared, and they want to abide by the law. And I have nothing wrong against that. Excuse me one second.
Did you contract staph infection while you were in SHU, or?
Well, I was in the box, yes.
Wow, that's
While I was
crazy.
in
The
the
cells
box.
must have been dirty then,
Dirty.
because you're the only one in there. Who would you have got it from?
Let's put it this way. They move you out of the cell every 30 days. So you go from one cell to another cell. You don't know who was in there.
I gotcha.
You got to clean the cell yourself. They give you cleaning products. You get the Comet, and you get the rags. You can clean the whole cell by yourself and everything like this. And I was in a cell with this kid for a while from Staten Island, Ralph Nicoletti. We cleaned the cell and everything. I mean, but you do what you can. Look, there was mice coming in underneath the door like this. There's a little opening in the door like this. The mice were coming in. You'd be sleeping at night. You hear them going through your stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a pigsty. I mean, they don't care. But like I said, I was trying to say about the corruption, how they did it.
You were going to tell a story. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of that story that I was just about to say because, okay, I got it. So on my first bid, I was in Otisville, New York, and I was talking to a couple of guys up there, a couple of wise guys. And they said to me, we went to court and everything, and they said that, they put a guy on the stand. I never met him. And I went, what? And I says, how could they put this guy on a stand or testify against you, and you never met him? They must have, He says, I'm telling you, this is what they do. Well, so I said, oh, I couldn't believe it. I agreed with the guy while I was there. But when I walked away, I said, this guy's nuts. They can't do this here. Sure enough, that's what they do. Drug cases like that. People come and testify against you. You know why? Because it's like regular, normal people. They think that the regular police department, the FBI, and all this stuff is upstanding and they're going to do the right thing. That's not true. I have paperwork, and if you subscribe to my Patreon channel, you will see. I also have stuff I actually won the Fourth Amendment search. I'm in the law books, me and my attorney at that time, Jose Muniz, which is almost an illegal. The Fourth Amendment is a search and seizure. They did an illegal search and seizure on me, but we won the case. You know why? Because the judge saw and heard and understood that they were lying.
Where was this that they did this search and seizure?
I was in New Rochelle when I got arrested at my house, and they did what they call a protective sweep. So that means agents run into the house, they search the area, it's within. It's only it takes a couple of minutes. That's it. You know what I mean? They go through every room real quick to make sure no one else is in the house, and this and this and that. Well, the protective sweep that they said lasted about an hour for me.
What'd they find?
They found a couple of guns, but I'll tell you how it is. Right there alone, a protective sweep is not an hour search. It's a couple of minutes to go in and out.
Just make sure no threats or immediate threats are in there.
And the judge asked these detectives and everybody, there was because there was actually detectives and FBI there. They says, well, she says, did you see the blinds move or anything in there? This way, you know, you wanted to go into the house to do it because you arrested him outside in his driveway. I was pulling up with my then girlfriend at the time. And so they said no. She said, did you hear a toilet flush, you know, in there inside the house or anything to see if they're, you know, because maybe that's why you thought somebody was in the house. He says, no, because they had said that we thought that there was somebody else in the house because he was going to commit this murder. And they came up with, they just lie. So as I was trying to say about the wise guy, I thought like right away he was lying. You know, I was like, this guy's crazy. But, you know, you don't want to disagree with the wise guy. Well, sure enough, he wasn't telling a lie. They did it to me. But you don't know that until it happens to you. Just like if you get pulled over for a regular speeding ticket or something, you think you ain't speeding. But they get you on the radar. You don't realize you were speeding. You don't look at the speed. You just figure you were cruising. You don't think it's going to happen to you, but it happened to you.
Well, even if you weren't speeding, it's your word against theirs.
And there's the other part of the coin, too. And the first thing the cop does when he comes to you, you know how fast you were going? Most people go, no, you're on. No, officer. You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, yeah, officer, I was doing the speed limit. But nobody knows how to do these things unless you are, I can't say trained for it, but you should have to be in that kind of lifestyle. Well, I was in the lifestyle. Not only was I in the lifestyle with the Mafia, I was actually, you know, later on, I worked with the FBI. And this is another thing. The FBI set me up. I worked for the FBI for undercover as a CI, which is a confidential informant, for 18 years. And then they arrest me. Now, let me ask you a question. You think after 18 years, no, nothing happened on my watch, everything was good, nobody got hurt, beep, 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 all this stuff, saved the life of a federal sitting judge, Judge Garifas, okay? Saved the life of an assistant U.S. attorney, okay? All these things that I did for them, all the unsolved murders I gave them, all this stuff like that. You think they could have said, hey, Joe, we'd like to talk to you. You know, we got wind that you want to have this murder and everything like this and, you know, this conspiracy for murder for hire. No, they didn't give me a pass. You know what they said? It doesn't matter. You know why? They wanted me to work with them. My handler retired after 18 years, me and him working together. He put me with somebody else, I guess, who wasn't as powerful as he was because he retired pretty high up on the ranks in there. And they arrest me 3 months after he retired. Doesn't that sound a little suspicious? And now they set me up for what? I'm supposed to be working with you. It just goes to show you, you are, in the wise guy life, you're as good as the last envelope you gave them. In the FBI life, you're as good as the last whatever else you gave them or whatever. They don't care. Nobody cares about you but yourself and maybe somebody who loves you out there. So the corruption I wanted to say about the BOP, there was stuff that they did in there. They turned off the cameras. Okay? Look, I don't know. I'm not political or anything, so please don't misunderstand when I say this. Everybody might have heard, or some people might have heard about the Jeffrey Epstein case, how he supposedly killed himself in his own cell and everything like that. While I don't think it's impossible to do that, okay, I don't believe a guy like him would want to do that. But isn't it kind of funny how the two COs are sleeping on the job? The cameras are off at this particular time. Now, I'm a guy that was actually in this place. I know. The only time they turn off the cameras is when they want to do something to you, and then they give you the old spiel. Oh, must have been something what happened with the electric. We had a shortage or whatever the case may be. It's all lies. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, coming from a guy like me, but I'm not the only person it happened to. You see, and there's too many coincidences, at least along with that. The same thing like with my thing too. I went to the they give you a hearing. I had one hearing in the whole time I was in the box, which was 15 months I did total in the box. The guy came to me and he says, "Oh, you talked to me a little bit and this and that." Well, sure enough, they give me the piece of paper, and it said on the bottom of the piece of paper. Now I lost this piece of paper. I gave it to my attorney's paralegal at the time, and he lost it on me. And I didn't make copies at the time. Stupid, But I was messed up, like I said, and I'm not making excuses. I should have made copies, but I wasn't thinking. Gave it to the paralegal. Figured it's okay. It's in good hands. It says on here, unknown to the inmate, we were contacted by outside law enforcement. Proof right there that the outside law enforcement told the Bureau of Prisons, the BOP, to put me in the hole because I was informing on my co-defendant, which was not true.
And is this before it was public knowledge that you were an informant? So you could have been in general, and you would have been fine. Nobody knew you were cooperating.
That's right. Nobody knew. Then they put in the paper because to coincide that I was cooperating with my thing, so that this way they can have the evidence to say, like, hey, see, we're saving his life. Now, this is what gets me. My life is not in danger, according to the FBI handler who I worked with, Vincent Pizzuti, when he took the stand. No, they don't kill anybody anymore like that. But yet in the BOP, my life is in danger. So which one is it? Is my life in danger as an informant, or it's not? See, then my attorney asks at my trial to Vinny Pizzuti, who was my handler for 18 years, he says, was Joe's life ever in danger? He says, all the time. Well, which one is it? You see, you can't have it both ways, but this is how I'm just blessed because I won the indictment for the Fourth Amendment. I won that. Then I was blessed to have a jury that listened, okay? I was blessed because I prayed to God every day I was in that cell because look, the first time I got arrested, I was not innocent. I'm not going to lie. I got caught beating up the guy. So I'm not lying about it. I got caught. I was doing my time, and of course everybody, or if you're new to the channel, I was informed that my father was killed by the wise guys and it sent me in a different direction, but I was doing my time. Not pleasantly, but I did it. All I'm saying is that the whole system is rigged for them. If you guys don't know anything about the federal system, there's a 95% conviction rate. You know what? We want to know why? Because nobody goes to trial. It's very rare that you want to go to trial because if you lose, you get more money, more time.
So that's for federal cases?
Yep. So let's say you can make a deal for 4 or 5 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. But if you go to trial, you get 15. What do you want to do? You're going to take the 3, 4, 5 years, ain't you?
Right.
I mean, it makes sense. Nobody's stupid. But if more people, it's almost like sometimes they said, they're trying to pack the courts or whatever it is political term. But in where I'm from, if everybody decided to go to trial, the prison system, the whole court system, the whole system would be jammed to the pack that they would be giving you better deals, but nobody's going to do that. You know why? Because everybody's out for themselves. And this is what it is in this life. Everybody's out for themselves. The wise guys are out for themselves. 9 out of 10 are, you know what I'm saying? I did meet some people who weren't. But that's so rare. You can't believe how rare that is. And also, even when I was in the working for the feds, the FBI, they want to promote themselves. Give you a quick story. I'm in Otisville. I'm in this one place where there's 5 tiers. So one of the guys, the CEOs, was fat.
What do you mean by tiers?
So in other words, there's just it's 5 stories high.
Okay.
So you're on tier 1, so you're on they're in there like that. Okay. Well, this one CEO was fat, so he used to tell everybody, like when we got the mail or something like that, he goes, listen, if you guys, when I call you to lock you up, he says, if you guys get into the cell real quick, I won't lock the doors. This way you can go right back to the TV room. It don't take him a long time to let us out. He don't got to go around climbing 5 stairs to lock and unlock the doors. And that wasn't a bad gig. Nobody said anything. Do you know who? So there was 2 CEOs. They'd have to count you to make sure everybody was there. Don't you think one of his own CEO buddies told on him so that they can get a bump up. This is how cutthroat even within the system it is.
Did he get fired, or did he just get?
I never saw him no more.
Oh wow.
Now, did he get fired or not? That I can't say.
Probably though.
Probably. Then there was other CEOs who used to listen. I got 2 loaves of bread one time. They were like the long ones because it was like it was from the kitchen. So there's one kid. He was a black kid, but he was very light skinned. So we used to call him Light. Anyway, there was the kitchen. I was walking back to the place where I was going in there, and there was windows on the bottom, but they had this mesh. But this one metal thing, I guess they bent it. So he said, "Yo, New York, New York." I looked real quick. He says, "Take this back to the block." I said, "Okay." So these long things, and I had the coat on. It was wintertime. I said, "Oh, how am I?" So I just put them in my jacket. I took a chance. So right there was the CEO there, and I know the CEO. He was actually one of the good ones that allowed us a lot of things. I'm not going to say his name because he was good. And he says, "Hey, Barone," he says, "you're putting on a lot of weight, ain't you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm eating pretty good, thank goodness." And he let me go because he knew it was only bread probably. He didn't care. So sure enough, I go and Light comes to my cell and he says, "Yeah," and I give him the 2 loaves. He goes, "No, you keep one for yourself because you got it in for me." See, that's the way we work together. See, that doesn't matter your color, your skin, whatever. We work together. That's how we did it. And sure enough, I told all the guys we got bread. And now we start making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at nighttime. Yeah, and let me show you. So you get the peanut butter, but they sold another jelly. It was like it's like a preservative. You don't have to put it in the refrigerator after you open it. It was called Kefir. Well, who do you think owned that? It was the Bush family. It was President Bush and his family owned that. There was Bob Barker, from the guy who used to do The Price is Right or whatever heck it was. He had shampoos he used to sell in there and everything too. This is how everybody's in on it. It's a business. And so I guess whoever it is, their accounts, whatever they do, they listen, guys, just so you know, the place is corrupt. The FBI is corrupt. Oh, don't get me wrong. There are people who really do bad stuff that do belong in prison. I do not say they don't. Some of them belong dead. They kill people, innocent people for no reason, children and stuff like that. Yeah, I get all of that, and I'm all for it. I'm not even for keeping them in prison. Get rid of them. They're taking up oxygen we don't need. And then, and same thing with the FBI. Do they do a couple of good things here and there? Sure they do. But when you can go and hurt a person who helped after 18 years and do what you did to me, no. You could have let me go. There was no murder under me. There was none of that bad stuff like that. I had to play the part of a gangster. I had to be the tough guy. I had to do all this stuff. Okay, so was I really going to kill somebody for money? I never did it in all that 18 years. Why would I do that now? I had $1 million home. I had almost $1 million of cash in my pocket. Okay, I was even worth more than that, and I was getting a really great civil service job in my own town. So, no, they could have just gave me a pass and never exposed me, never locked me up, nothing. But this is how bad the FBI are and how they betray you.
So how many, you talk about MDC and MCC, are those both in New York?
Yes, MCC is in New York, and MDC is in Brooklyn.
Okay, so you also spent time in Milan, Michigan, correct?
Yes. I actually went and I was in Otisville. I was in Goshen, New York, my first bid for a couple of weeks. I was in El Reno, Oklahoma for a couple of weeks.
Really?
Well, yeah, they ship you around, and that's what they do. El Reno, Oklahoma is a maximum security prison, so I was a holdover there for about 2 weeks. That's where I met Gene Gotti, or at least I said hello to him anyway. And he helped me out there too with some extra clothes, because they know you're a holdover. And because I was from New York, he said, "You're from New York, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay." He was in the laundry room. I was in. And then I finally got to Milan, Michigan, where I had surgery because I had a hernia in there. Matter of fact, the lady who examined me when I did it, my aunt was able to send me a hernia belt to keep it hold in because I couldn't walk unless I kept my hernia held in. It was in my scrotum.
Oh, wow.
The lady looked at me, the doctor at the Milan, Michigan, and she said, "Oh, my God, it's the worst I've ever seen." A week to 2 weeks later, they sent me to the hospital out there, and that's when I got the surgery. Yep, and then here's the 2 COs. They said, everybody usually gets sick on the way back and throws up. I hope you don't throw up in the car. I said, I never throw up. I was a lot younger then, too. was my first bid. So they said, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 25 push-ups. The CO says if you don't throw up, he says, well, you got to give me 25 if you do. I says, well, I will give you the 25, but don't forget I'll be out of surgery. I won't be able to do it the same day. So sure enough, after I had the surgery, they were driving me back. I'm handcuffed. I got the seatbelt on. I'm handcuffed and shackled. They're driving crazy. I'm going like this in the car. They're trying to make me get sick, and I didn't. And all to
Oh my God.
Yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. Now, don't forget too, they gave me Vicodins in the in the hospital, but when I got back to the prison, you get Tylenol. That's it. You don't get none. They don't care. So I was in pain. I was walking around. The Tylenols didn't do nothing. But he did give me, in all to his credit, the CO did in the bullpen. When you first come in from the street, before I went back down to my I was in actually a dorm at that time. Before I went back to my bunk, he did do the 25 push-ups for me. Yeah, so I give him credit for that. But there was one other guy in there, this guy Jerry. He was from Michigan, and he asked the CO. He says, I'll take the top bunk, and Joe can go to the bottom bunk, because I wouldn't have been able to climb up to the top bunk. I was that much in pain, and stuff like that. So, there was a couple of good guys I met like that in the joint and stuff like that. And look, it's just they don't care about you, and that's it. You're on your own.
Would you say that the New York prison system was different and worse, better than some of the other places like Oklahoma and Michigan that you were in?
When you get designated, it's always going to be better, because you're allowed more. Like in Michigan, I was able to get a guitar sent in, as long as it's under a certain amount of money. So they allowed you to do that. Your commissary is going to be better. There is a little bit more better when you're designated.
What does that mean, designated?
It means when you're finally doing your time, you get sentenced and you get to the prison, you're going to be doing your time. And
Gotcha.
yeah, my Aunt Betty wanted to come see me out in Michigan. I said, nah, Aunt Betty, she was sickly, and I told her, no. I said, it's better. I don't want to see you on a visit anyway. Make me feel more worse. And then I moved in with my grandmother when I came home, and for about 10 months, and she passed away, 10, 11 months. She passed away while I was living with her. Thank God I was there. And then I moved in with my aunt later on. So it was just sad, just the way they treat you, because there's no need for a lot of the stuff that they do. Like when I went to go, I'll tell you what. So they said the doctor, they called you down to medical, and I said, okay. I said, what the hell? Why am I being called down for medical? Well, sure enough, the CO takes me down to medical, and then he goes, okay, wait here, and he locks the door. Well, the reason why they did that was because I was getting the surgery the next day. They don't tell you ahead of time because they don't want you to plan an escape.
Okay, I gotcha.
Listen, I had 18 months left to do on my bid. I wasn't going to plan no escape now. It was like stupid. Anyway, so now they put me in the hole for overnight. And I was like, damn. So I'm sitting in a box, and I'm like, wow.
And you didn't know why you were in there?
And I didn't know, but then I figured it out. And then don't you think I get a letter from my grandmother's sister, my Aunt Angie, and my grandmother too, because it was I got operated on December 17th or 16th, and it was my birthday's the 18th, and so they sent me my birthday cards, and so it was nice reading that. You'd be surprised. Nobody realizes until you're alone, and you always feel alone no matter what. Even when you're not an orphan, but you feel funny. You know what I mean? And when you get a letter, a card, a picture, get to talk to somebody on the phone, it means. It just doesn't make you feel alone. Doesn't make you feel like you got nobody out there anymore. I used to call. I always talk about my guy's not my friend no more, Pete Savinello. I used to call his father up, and his father used to break my chops, and he used to say, "Yeah, my Joe, geez, I wish you were here. I'm making meatballs now," and all of this stuff like that. I used to call my friend Vinny's mother up, and she said, when you come home, there's always a plate here for you all the time. His mother always treated me good. Vinny didn't even have to be home. I would just go over there if I wanted to, So little things like that, makes you feel, it makes you know what you miss. Like my Aunt Betty, I would talk to all the time, my aunt would. And I'd read the poems I wrote. I should bring some of my poems. Maybe I'll either do it on the Patreon channel, or maybe I'll just read them on a couple on air. I wrote a lot of poems while I was away on my first bid. But it was the second bid I think was the worst of all, because even though I did like a week or two in the box on my first bid, it was a lot different. When you're younger, it's different. You know what I mean? Here I was more established in my 40s, and for them to do this to me and take that 19 months away from me, nah, it wasn't right.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned something about styrofoam earlier, about how you would take the styrofoam and use it as like a seat so you didn't have to sit on the cold toilet.
Yeah.
Would they like confiscate things like that if they knew you had it?
They would sometimes.
Because you can melt styrofoam down and make like a pretty hard plastic.
Yeah.
And
It was
use
so
it as a
thin. Yeah,
weapon.
it was very thin. It was like sometimes you get these meals. It was like if you were like a Muslim or a Jewish person. So the styrofoam was very thin, big. You would be like a different kind of a tray they would give you. That's all it is. But they would take that away from you. They would take the things where we used to go fishing, which was this guy used to make mine. You put 3 batteries. He would cut like a toothpaste or something like that, and he would put these in there, and he'd stay. I don't know how the hell he did it. He was great. So we would go fishing at night, which is you have the long cord, and then and it had like the hook. The staple was like a hook, and you throw it to another cell at nighttime. They'd hook it up. They'd give you a candy bar if you wanted one, if you had one. Or sometimes we'd be able to wrap our magazine in it and pull it to the other cell, and we would, switch magazines because, like I said, the SEALs didn't want to do it for us.
And you'd call that going fishing.
Yeah, we say we're fishing tonight, yeah. So, we had a little radio with the earphones. So, you're allowed certain things, but, you make the most of it,
When you go to shoe, though, that all goes away, I'm sure.
Well, you get the radio still in the show.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was good. I used to listen to, different station at nighttime. But it's think about it. It's a big ordeal to get from the street into a 23-hour lockup a day, and you're not allowed. You're only allowed one 15-minute phone call per month.
Really?
That's it. Yep. And that's it.
That's when you're in general as well, or just when you're in shoe?
No, only when you're in the box.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, and you're only allowed 15 minutes, even when you're in the in population. Then you got to wait another hour before you call again. See, when I first went in, you can stay on the phone as long as you want, as long as you had money on the commissary for the phone. But they changed that for 15-minute phone call. I guess to try to make everybody get a phone call.
Yeah, people were probably getting into fights over the phone.
Exactly. Oh God, it was. I can't tell you how many fights over that. I even had to crack a guy. I was on the phone for a long time, and he was a Nigerian guy, and he hung the phone up on me like that. He pressed the thing, and so I
While you were on the phone?
Yep. And I turned around and started beating him with the phone.
Wow.
Yeah, I grabbed him and started hitting him with the phone like this. I grabbed his head and this and that, so we got into a big fight. But we made up later, and the COs, nothing ever happened. The people broke it up, and then the COs came, but nobody said it was us, and I didn't have no marks on my hands because I was hitting him I held the phone like this, when you're holding it, and I just kept hitting him with like this, and I was going beep in it, but the cord would only stretch. That's why I grabbed the back of his head, and I was going like this with it.
So you got into a lot of fights when you're in prison, correct?
I got into, about a good, I think 4 fights, 4 or 5 fights, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever afraid that they were going to pull out a shank and, start stabbing you in the side?
Yeah, I didn't know who was going to do what. One guy, when I was in I was in White Plains, New York, and there was a guy, Gaines, he was a CEO up there at that time. He's probably retired. I think he would still be alive. And he, I had a fight with some guy. He ratted on me about something in there, and he says, look, I'm going to let him out for a shower. I'll let you out at the same time. I don't walk by here for another 20 minutes. So you got 20 minutes to do whatever you want to do. So he let us out. I was in my cell when the thing opened up, and he came to my cell. He goes, hey, like he was Colombian, I think. His name was Salazar. He goes, hey, boom, I hit him. He went flying out of my cell. We started fighting a little bit. Somebody left the mop thing there, so he picked up the handle, and he was trying to hit it with me. And, well, I was different then, and I gave him a kick. He dropped it, and then he fell to the floor, and I grabbed him by his hair, and I was going to start banging it. It was the old prison, the old in Valhalla. It was the old, not the new one. And they had those old cast iron radiators there, and I was about to bang his head, and some guy in Spanish yelled to this other guy, Freddie, who was, we were together for a while, and he said, Joe, don't do it, and because the other guy said he's going to kill him, and I was going to bash his head against the thing, but I probably might have killed him because the point of the radiator was going to hit him right here because that's where I had it. And so I let him go, and then the CO came and he was all roughed up and everything. So he says, "Hey, Salazar," he goes, "What happened?" He said, "Oh," and so Freddie said to him in Spanish, "You better tell him you fell." And he goes, "I slipped and fell, when I went for a shower." He goes, "Oh, you want to see the doctor?" He goes, "No, I'm all right." He had a headache, but they gave him some Tylenol, and that was it. And so then me and him became no problems after that. He was okay. He just needed to learn. He was never in prison before. He thought he could do certain things he can't do.
Right.
So listen, prison's a learning experience. You just learn the hard way, and you don't want to learn the hard way. It could cost you your life there. So, but anyways, I hope you guys understand a little bit. I hope you believe what I say because it is the truth. I've always come on here and told the truth. Until then, I'm going to end this podcast today. I wish everybody out there the best. I want to say thank you to all my loyal fans and followers. Tune into don't forget my Patreon channel and all the other stuff we got going on. You guys, peace and love always, and thanks again for everything.